Oh yes, definitely a massive difference. What's up everybody, welcome to Hammerdown Motorsports. Today we have our 22 F350 Platinum and we have a very special new mod that's gonna be going on this truck and actually replacing something that I'd already put on the truck and making it a little bit better. So first off, let's show you guys what I had done to the truck. Turner to accessory. So on the Super Duty, we have these reverse lights. Now, you can see by the pattern, these are actually a light that I reused that had been on, I think, 2 other vehicles already. They're a rigid, but they're a combo light. So they're a more or less a driving light. So it's a spot and a flood, as you can see by our pattern. And they don't really work that well as a reverse light, to be honest. They have a very focused beam and you don't really get a whole lot of flood out of them. And they look just like this underneath the truck, and they're white. They look cool. I don't even know if they make the white ones anymore. This is going back probably at least 10 years, but I think we can do a little bit better, and that's what our mod is today, showing you guys how we're going to remedy this and make it a little bit more of a clean install. All right, so to replace our current setup, we have these, and these were actually sent out to me by a subscriber, so big thanks to Mark for sending these out. These are a very nicely built, heavy duty, like ABS plastic, and this is what's going to accommodate our new lights, and they're actually gonna go really nice and cleanly into the bar ends on our hitch, so it's pretty seamless. We already have that spot open on the bottom of the truck. So you can see right there, we have that big open void, and this is gonna go right in there and accommodate our rigid lights that are much smaller than the ones that I had, and probably a lot more of a proper light for the job that we're gonna be needing them for, giving us a flood pattern. And so we can actually see what we're doing at night, because everybody knows our factory reverse lights, they don't really do a whole lot. So when you order your light mounts, it does come with a very nice instruction booklet here from Mark, and with color pictures and a very detailed description of how exactly he installed them on his truck. So we're gonna go through this and see what we gotta do to get everything installed on the Super Duty and make our reverse light situation a whole lot better than what we've had it. All right, so we got our lights unpackaged here. This is what they look like. Pretty small. I mean, this is it sitting in my hand. Compared to the other ones, they're maybe not even a third the size. So what we're gonna do now to make these fit is we're gonna actually take this bolt out here that comes from the factory like this, from the rigid factory, and we're actually gonna flip it around. So then it's actually gonna go towards the back side of our new mount when it sits in there. So then we have a place where our bolt's gonna come up through the bottom, and then we can tighten down that nut, and then everything is locked right in. And there is some fitment things that we're gonna work on as well. We'll show you guys as this process continues. So now that we have the light mount flipped around, it's gonna look just like this. You can see how this fits in here, and when it fits flat, right like this, it's perfect on the other side. You can see right here, everything fits very, very nicely. You don't have to force it at all, and you can get that right in where you want it. So now we're gonna take our light out, and I'm gonna show you guys fitment on the actual hitch itself and kind of the modifications you need to make it fit perfectly on your truck. All right, so I got off the phone with Mark, and I was just talking to him a little bit, making sure that I wasn't totally off with my harebrained idea to change things up a little bit, because you can see right here how these are made. Now, they have a little bit of a downward facing angle, and they go directly out to the side of the truck, which is gonna give you light right in this area, straight out, down. What I was thinking when I was kind of doing a little bit of test fitting and seeing how this is all gonna work was, instead of having it like this, where it's downward facing out to the side, I was thinking of going like this. So now we have a little bit towards the back, almost a 45 out the back of the truck. But what I'm gonna do before I do any kind of modifications or anything like that to make this fit, because we do have to do some fitment on the F350 hitch anyway. You have to do a little bit of sanding to get these to fit, because the F250 and the F350 hitches are slightly different as far as the side goes. If you have a 250, this is gonna fit really perfectly. With some maybe minor sanding, the 350 is gonna require a little bit more, but not really a big deal. We'll show you guys as we go along with this process. But I do have an idea. We're gonna put some power to this first and just kind of lightly test fit in here before we do any kind of cutting or drilling and see where our light is gonna be, if that's where I want it, and then we'll go from there. All right, so got a little test fit going on here with turning that mount in the way that I just wanted to get a little bit more rearward light, and you can see it's doing exactly what I wanted it to do. We have quite a bit of light right here, and you can see how it kind of moves out this way and cuts off, so we have a really nice pattern going back this way and out towards the rear slightly, just by having that angle a little bit like that instead of like this, going more downward and out to the side. But if you do have rear lights on your truck, you probably want to put it out to the side to kind of fill in this entire area, but we're kind of doing a little of both with one light, and I think this is going to work out pretty good for us. You can see how focused our beam is over there compared to these floods, and just an example of the size difference. So this is what we were running before, these big old rigids, and now we're achieving all that light with this little tiny guy right here. And once we do our night shots, that's when it's really going to show how much pattern you actually have out here, so definitely stay tuned for those at the end of the video. So next up, after we got our light set in place where we want it, we got the right depth and everything like that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna mark this hole in the bracket for the light, and then we're going to be able to drill our hole into the mount so we can get a bolt in here to hold it in place. So if you're mounting it to the side with it facing downward like this, like the instructions show you, the idea is you're going to drill a hole in the tube of the hitch that's going to line up with the hole that you drill in the mount, and that's going to go all the way through and go to the nut that comes with the kit for your rigid light. So it's going to go all the way through, tighten up here, and that's going to hold this and to the hitch, and everything is going to be a really nice solid mount. But now that I'm turning the light sideways in the tube, my idea is I'm going to mark this hole. I'm going to drill it just like you would no matter which way you're going to mount it, and I'm going to clearance this out a little bit and put a shorter bolt in here, and this is just going to be bolted together right from the light bracket to the mount, and it's all going to be inside the hitch tube, and you're not going to actually see this from the outside. And then to keep this from sliding out, I'm going to actually drill a hole in the bottom of the hitch tube and just put a screw that's going to go into the plastic part right here, and that's going to hold it in place. Just make sure you don't use one that's too long, that's actually going to go, you know, up into your light or something like that. It's really just to keep it from being able to slide out, which it's a very tight fit, and once we sand it down and get it so we can get it in and out, it's going to have a pretty decent resistance fit. This is just a backup, so we're not going to have this thing rattle out on us. All right, so in this video, we definitely did some things a little bit different than originally designed for these mounts. And after I was all done, I talked to Mark, and he said that they're actually going to be revising the design if you want to use them in the way that I did. So definitely mention which way that you're going to be mounting your lights, and he can get you the revised version if you want to do it the way I did, for whatever way your mounts are going to be facing, and it'll be a whole lot less work than what I had to do just to kind of make this in the way that I did. So keep that in mind. All right, so we have our lights mounted to our mount right now. You can see we have a bolt going through, and then there's a nut on the bottom, and that's just tightened up inside here, and this is nice and flush, so we don't have to worry about that sticking out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to clearance our hole so we can make sure that this fits in there nicely. Being that we did turn it sideways, you want to make sure that this is going to be flush, because obviously we're not going to have a bolt going through the tube anymore on the hitch if you want to do it this way. But this worked out. Just got to take your time, make sure that you make enough room for your socket so you can tighten that down really good. But that's all it really needs to do, and that's all going to be inside the hitch now, and our light is perfectly nice and solid on there. So here you can see our mount, and if we put it in the way that they designed this mount, it is going in like this. Now you can see on the F350 it is fairly tight, and you're going to have to clearance on this side and on the other side to be able to get it up close and then see where you're touching and then clearance it there as well. For us today, we are going like this. Try not to pinch our wire, and it actually fits in fairly decently. It's just right here and right here. We're gonna have to clearance those two, and then we should be able to slide right into the tube. So I'm gonna go get I have one of those Milwaukee sanders with a belt on it. I think that's gonna work good for giving a nice clean up over here, and we'll see how much we have to take off, get it to fit in, and then we can move all the way to the edge where this part ends and it's gonna actually stick out. So this will fit nice and flush. So we're pretty good right here when I slide it in, but you can see where the weld touched there, and then there's another little notch right there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our Dremel or little Milwaukee here with a blade on it, and then I'm gonna cut a channel right where that mark is, and then it's gonna allow that weld to just kind of slide into that groove. And it's gonna give us a lot of stability as well as clearance. So this is what the channel looks like when it's cut. I did most of it with our Dremel. Was able to just kind of cut along that line where the mark was. And then since it's round, we can't get all the way to this edge without damaging it, because we're gonna see this spot. We don't wanna see that. So I took this little pencil bit on the die grinder and just kind of followed it along and made it at an angle just so I could get in there far enough so it can go nice and flush when we get everything pushed in there. All right, so we got some night shots for you guys. Let's back up a little bit here. We have our reverse lights on, and you can see how much the factory does. Now, let's turn on our brand new ones with our upfitter switch right here. And oh yes, look at the difference. It looks like we have headlights in the back pretty well on the 360 camera. But let's go check it out from the outside and see how much light these actually throw. Yeah, I'll say that's throwing some pretty good light. It's going pretty well all the way up the hill. And as I turned it to that angle, you can see kind of how that light comes out from the truck a little bit more than it would if it was just pointing downward the way that it was before. So I'm glad that I did it the way I did, just to kind of give that little bit of extra light this way, being that I don't have the ones directly backwards. But you guys can do it however you like. This is just an example of how that all works out. And you can see we've got light way over into the trees over there. So if you're out trying to hook up a trailer in the dark or anything like that, this really gives you a whole ton of light. So I'm gonna go turn on my rock lights. We can go underneath and I can show you exactly what I had to do as far as wiring goes. All right, UFO lights are on. And there's a look at that. I do have a light directly on the bottom of my hitch, but now like the whole truck lights up all the way around, especially with the headlights. And yeah, if you're anything like me and you love LED lights, you're definitely gonna love these. That's kind of our straight on, which is pretty well blinding. Let's get underneath here. All right, so what I have is our wiring going into this hole right here, and then I have another one right here. And what I did is I drilled out those holes and then I actually put a piece of fuel line over top of the wiring, which the wiring is already protected. It's the rigid wiring that's got the rubber all the way around. And just to give it added protection, I put the fuel line over top of it, and then a zip tie, and then I put the loom over top of that. So we're good to go as far as that is, and this isn't moving around anyway. Everything's zip tied with our other wiring, and we're all good to go. And then on the bottom, you can see the one screw I have right here. So you can put a second one in if you want to, but this thing is nice and tight in here. I don't really have any worries about that moving around. And I just used a galvanized screw that could go up into the plastic and just drill the hole there for it. And everything is good to go. So there it is, everybody, our new reverse light setup for the Super Duty. I'm super happy with the way that it all turned out. It's a very clean look, and that's exactly how I like things on my truck, where they're there, but they're using things that are already there on the truck, like those spaces in the hitch, which are kind of out of place anyway. And now we have all that functionality with our brand new lights. So big thanks to Mark for sending these mounts out. I will have his information in the description so you guys can get in contact with him, get yours ordered up, as well as I will have a link for those reverse lights from Rigid, and you can get that whole setup all put together and get your rig lit up like mine. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, and as always, keep that hammer down.